Great news for Philadelphia. The Eagles getting a huge reinforcement just in time for the playoffs. Also, several players recognized for their great work this season, but did a few get snubbed? We will break it all down here on A to Z Philly. What is going on, everyone? Welcome into the show. Hit that like button if you do enjoy this video and subscribe for more content by hitting that red button here on A to Z Philly's YouTube channel. RB back today, bringing you the latest from the Linc. A lot of interesting things going on as the Eagles sit and prepare to watch the wild card weekend to see who their opponent will be. A lot of interesting injury speculations, which will come forward in the coming days. We do have some big news on that front that we will get to in just a little bit, but I want to start with the recognition tokens for today. The All-Pro teams were announced, and how about the Philadelphia Eagles with 5 All-Pro players on the first team? Lane Johnson and Jason Kelce, the dogs up front. And how about on the second team? Jalen Hurts in what has been a tremendous season. A.J. Brown in his first season as an Eagle. James Bradbury and Hassan Reddick. Right now, let me know down below in the comment section where you are watching this, who got snubbed from this list, because the Eagles have 6 All-Pro players, but you could definitely argue there's more. You look at how many guys made the Pro Bowl and probably should have made the Pro Bowl. One guy that comes up to my mind right away is Darius Slay. Maybe Miles Sanders could have snuck in there. There are more that should have been on this list, in my opinion, but I'm grateful and happy for some of these guys who have gone their careers. You know, some of the guys that are up and coming, obviously Jalen Hurts, and how about Hassan Reddick just, you know, finding his home here in Philadelphia. You know, he's had a great past 3 years, but this is his home. And, you know, it's good to see some of these guys, you know, just get honored for their great work this season. They have had such a fantastic year. Here's some additional stats. We will start with Jason Kelce, who is obviously just, you know, a leader and just a franchise cornerstone and yes, a future Hall of Famer. Sports Radio WIP puts us out here. Jason Kelce's resume, 12 seasons with the Eagles. By the way, he was a late round draft pick, was never supposed to amount to anything. How about 138 consecutive starts, 6-time Pro Bowler, now a 5-time All-Pro and a Super Bowl champion, one of the best speeches of all time. Kelce locking his legacy. How about Jalen Hurts? Shout out to Thomas Peterson putting this on Twitter. Goes from a Pro Bowl alternate in year 1 to year 2, starting in the Pro Bowl, second team All-Pro, winning his quarterback in the league. And oh, by the way, this is just a couple years after he came in as a bench player for Carson Wentz. And you know, he was supposed to be a running back and nobody ever believed in his talent. Well, Jalen Hurts is proving the naysayers wrong. And what a fantastic year for Hurts. And just one more that could have potentially made it. How about TJ Edwards? Do you think TJ Edwards was deserving of the All-Pro team? Here are some of his stats. First among pass breakups with linebackers with 7, second in overall grade with 84.8, second in tackles, and you know the stats go on and on and on. Pretty big year for TJ Edwards, even though he was a bit quiet on some of the fronts, especially later on in the season. But the numbers show that TJ Edwards was a very successful player. Like I said, Darius Slay, a couple others I think should have been on this list. Darius Slay was pretty he was annoyed about it himself on Twitter. I don't have the specific tweet, but Slay thinks he should have made it. He got snubbed last year as well. So, hey, he's just going to have to come out in the playoffs and prove people that he should have been on the list. But anyway, the big news of the day, the hot spot, the spotlight comes with one of the Eagles All-Pro players, and that is Lane Johnson, okay? Lane Johnson has been out for several weeks. He had that kind of scary-looking injury. Usually you don't see Lane Johnson come off the field, and he's just a tank. And Lane Johnson has been hurting. He's been in serious pain, but great news for Eagle Nation. He was on the Pat McAfee show today, and here's the quote. He says, "I'm playing next week." They were talking about his injury. He, mentioned how it kind of got misreported in the media, and it was an adductor, and he was going through a lot of pain. But you know what? Lane Johnson will not be held down, and this is huge for the Eagles. This is such a huge reinforcement because Lane is one of the rocks of this team, of that line. Lane Johnson doesn't allow sacks. He doesn't allow quarterback pressure. I know he's going to be playing through pain and injury and will end up getting a surgery after the season is over. But you know what? Lane even mentioned himself, He has played through various injuries before, and it doesn't matter. Lane Johnson, to me, is probably going to be a Hall of Famer one day. The guy hasn't let up a sack in 2 years. That is unheard of. That is unheard of. What a guy and what a player. And it's specifically important for this team, as we all know, because Jalen Hurts is going through pain of himself. He's going through an injury. And guess what? He's going to need his rock there at right tackle. And if Lane Johnson can come back and even be, just 70 or 80% of himself, that will be such a huge thing for the Eagles to look forward to. We all expected him to come back, but just him confirming it is such a good thing to hear, especially with a week to go so that he can start to get those reps. Here's Lane Johnson in practice today. You see him participating in some of the drills. So the fact that he's back out on that field, I don't think there's any type of smoke and mirrors here. I think Lane is going to be ready to fire, and I think he's going to be what this Eagles team needs. Give Jalen time to throw. Obviously, you can do different things, open up some more holes in the running game. We don't know how much Jalen is going to be running himself, but just having that comfort factor, as a quarterback, having that guy who you really, really trust in and believe in, not having to, maybe move Mailata over or put Dillard in there or move Driscoll or Dickerson or whoever it may be, right? You don't have to shift anything else. You want to be as prepared as possible, and you want to be back to normal as much as possible, like the Eagles have, in terms of success this season. You want to have that line because the Eagles are definitely built in the trenches. Also, Lane Johnson had a few interesting quotes on this injury, and this was the most profound to me. He was asked about, coming back versus going and taking the surgery, and here's what he had to say, quote, "There's few times in your career when you know you're on a team that has a chance to win it all. I've seen that throughout the season. The only reason I want to come back is because I feel like we have a chance to be something special." Now let that sink in. Let that resonate. Lane Johnson already has a Super Bowl ring. Lane Johnson has already done the 10 miles. Lane Johnson doesn't have anything to prove. So he could gladly take his money and say, let me go sit on a beach and relax and let my season be over. And, maybe if the Eagles were just a last seed or, just sneaking into the playoffs and not really playing up, to the level of some of these other teams, maybe Lane Johnson would do that. I don't know. I'm not saying he would based on his character. He's a really, really tough guy. He's tough as nails. But Lane Johnson here is pretty much saying he thinks the Eagles are going to go all the way. And that is the belief. That is the mentality that has resonated in that locker room, led by leaders like Jason Kelce or Jalen Hurts. And that's just, it seems to be the common thing going throughout that locker room, right? Just the aroma in the air is like, this team has what it takes this year. This team has what it takes to go the distance. And you look at the NFC, the lack of experience with some of these teams and coaches and quarterbacks. I think he's exactly right. I think Lane feels deep down, along with some of the other players in this squad, that, we have a really good shot of doing this. And if we don't, that might be a huge disappointment. What do you think about that, Eagles Nation? I mean, this has to be the year, right? You might lose both of your coordinators. You have to pay Jalen Hurts. There are a lot of factors that, will result from this season. And maybe Lane wants to go all in. Maybe everybody is all in. It seems like that has been the mindset of Howie Roseman dating back to last offseason. So I like how this is kind of spreading around, and this is the mindset. You have to be confident in your squad, and I think they really believe there's something special here. And the last thing, Lane Johnson says he would rather have the injury he has now, even though he said it is pretty painful. He said he would rather have this injury than the ankle stuff that he had a couple years ago. If you remember, he had his whole ankle reconstructed, and that was really the only time I can remember Lane Johnson sitting out of games because he physically could not even stand up or play on the field. But anything else, he's played through concussions and other things that he's talked about before. He's going to be out there. He's going to be ready. Let's just hope that the offensive line can hold up. He says, as far as the game, you go out there and play. It is what it is. Not much I can do about it. And that is what the mentality should be for this team. You leave it all out there on the field. You leave it all out there on the field together. Get back to what is working. Get back to what has this Eagles team at one of the best records in franchise history. And the Eagles will sit back this week. It's good that they have the bye week just to kind of get their form back and also get as healthy as possible. I really think this bye week is going to do more for this team than people think. I really think that this bye week could make the difference between going to the Super Bowl and maybe getting, eliminated in the conference championship, because having that health, and this has been the MO of the Eagles, right? Even in training camp, even in some of the preseason games, they don't play their guys. They rest. This has been Nick Sirianni's philosophy, and it has panned out pretty well. So giving them that extra week this week, I think will be huge, and hopefully Jalen will get that shoulder down packed and can be ready to throw the ball as much as he wants, because you know the Philadelphia Eagles will come out and they are going to let it fly early on. But we will see what happens. Appreciate everyone for tuning in here today. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. As always, hit that like button, subscribe to A to Z Philly, and I will catch you all on the next one. Peace.